having allowed the Bible to define its own symbols, we see God telling us Babylon is a church and state power located around 7 mountains, and it is a counterfeit church that appears primarily in purple and scarlet colors. There's only one church that fits this definitive description, the Roman Catholic Church, also known as the papacy. So let's investigate the evidence for this conclusion.
Vatican City is the only church and state nation in the world. It is known as the City on Seven Hills, and its primary colors are purple and scarlet. Papacy is, in truth, nothing else than the kingdom of Babylon and the very Antichrist. For who is the man of sin and the son of perdition, but he who by his teaching and his ordinances increases the sin and perdition of souls in the church, while he yet sits in the church as if he were God? All these conditions have now, for many ages, been fulfilled by the papal tyranny. First Principles of the Reformation by Martin Luther, page 197.
The second angel's message is a warning against the wine of Babylon and the intoxicating influence of its false doctrines which have deceived the entire world, yes, even the Christian world. This great feat was not accomplished at once, but subtly over several centuries.
When you think about Jesus' statement just before he left, he said, "This gospel shall be preached in all the world, and then the end will come." We see the disciples going out preaching this gospel, but we see that the end did not come. The reason I believe is because that gospel became tainted and a different gospel began to go out into all the world.
In part 2 of this series, we saw how the everlasting gospel and the everlasting covenant are revealed through the sanctuary. But now we're going to take a look at a prophecy in the book of Daniel where the sanctuary comes under attack. That's what's really being described here, an attack on the gospel and the covenant by replacing it with a counterfeit covenant.
According to Daniel chapter 8, the Bible talks about this little horn power that would defile the sanctuary.
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
And the little horn, there's no doubt as you look at the sequence of the chapter, that it's speaking about the Roman Catholic papacy.
Daniel's prophecy is telling us that the papacy would magnify himself and exalt himself even above Christ, the Prince of the host. And by the papacy, the truths represented by the sanctuary and Jesus' ministry in heaven would be cast to the ground. Instead of looking to Jesus as our high priest in the heavenly sanctuary, the people were taught to look to human priests in a counterfeit sanctuary upon the earth.
Furniture and the truth they represented. The altar of sacrifice, representing the sacrifice of Christ, was attacked, altered in a sense, and a new teaching came up on the scene that said the sacrifice of Christ was not sufficient for the forgiveness of sins. If you wanted to be forgiven, you had to pay money. You had to perform indulgences. You had to, do penance. And so the sacrifice of Christ was not sufficient for the forgiveness of sins.
And the one-time sacrifice of Christ is now being repeated perpetually at every Mass. And so the cross, in effect, has lost its power.
The laver, which represented baptism, that too was altered. We must repent and be baptized, which means you must be of age to understand that you have sinned and repent on free will. So this teaching was replaced by infant sprinkling.
And then when you look at the table of showbread, that represents the Bible. The Bible was, during the Dark Ages, was taken away.
It is forbidden for laymen to read the Old and New Testaments. We forbid them most severely to have the above books in the popular vernacular. The lords of the district shall carefully seek out the heretics in dwellings, hovels, and forests, and even their underground retreats shall be entirely wiped out. Pope Gregory IX in the Council of Jerusalem, 1229 AD, Canons 14